Andrea, can you hear me? I think you're on mute.
Yes, I can hear you.
That's better.
Do you want me on the video or should I be off it? Any preference?
Either way.
Okay.
So quiet.
It is. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our very first speaker series. My name is Andrea Kaikala. I'm the Executive Director of Washington Business Week. I want to go over some housekeeping before I introduce our speaker. I believe you are all on mute when you enter the room. Please make sure to stay on mute unless you have a question. That way we can eliminate any background noise. You can ask questions in the chat box, and I will compile those for questions and answers at the end of the presentation also. So it is now my pleasure to introduce Cynthia Seidel, who founded OnCourse College Consulting, and she works with high school students throughout Washington. We are very lucky to have Cynthia here today, and I hope this is beneficial to all of you. So welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you, Andrea, and Washington Business Week for putting on this speaker series. I'm really glad to be talking about college planning with you. And more than that, I'm really excited to see so many of you attending the webinar. COVID-19 has completely turned our world upside down. I don't need to tell anybody that. So I'm really impressed to see so many of you really taking the initiative and being proactive about thinking about your plans for after high school. College educations have always been important. But now that we're heading into an economic downturn caused by COVID, that looks like it'll be pretty bad, it's going to be more important than ever. The importance of getting a college education now will make the difference for you to be able to get the education you need to launch yourself into the career path that you want. So this is the agenda that we'll be following today. I've designed the content to really focus on two things. One, of course, is going to be the impact COVID-19 is having on college planning. And then the other part is college planning in general, because a lot of things haven't changed. They've just been tweaked a little bit by how we have to react to the COVID situation. Most of the presentation is directed towards juniors, but if you're a sophomore or a freshman attending, you'll still get a lot of value out of the presentation, and you'll get a heads up about what to look for in the future and what to be doing activity-wise. You will notice on the slides I have a lot of links and a lot of information. So it's only a 60-minute webinar. I'm hoping to keep the presentation part to about 30 minutes so that we'll have time for Q&A at the end. Don't worry about taking notes unless there's something that's not included on the slides, but the slides will be shared with you later by Andrea, so you'll have the links and all the information there. So the first topic is what's changed and what's stayed the same. In general, everything's gone virtual, and you guys know that. So your online learning, your classes at school, grading systems have changed. SAT, ACT, we'll talk about all of these things through the presentation. The impact of this is a lot of uncertainty. Colleges don't have all the answers right now. They're working as fast as they can to try and figure out what they're going to do to react among uncertainty that they're experiencing as well. So one of the things I would recommend is be really patient as they roll out decisions and resources for everybody to use for college planning, especially for the year of 2021. They're just now finishing, May 1st was the decision date for most seniors. So some of them pushed it back till June this year, but they're just kind of trying to get their arms around who's coming in the fall and turning their focus forward to the class of 2021. The other good thing that's come about is unprecedented flexibility. So whereas it was a pretty rigid application process in the past at many colleges, not so much anymore. Everybody's being very flexible, understanding that times are changing, situations are changing very quickly. Something to keep in mind is that colleges are really run by people, admissions offices in particular, and they're going through similar things themselves in their own families and their own lives. So they actually really do care, and they want to be there for you, and they want to know what you're experiencing so that they can really understand your situation in the context of what you're going through. What has not changed, there are still colleges and there are still students. We will be going through all of these points in detail later in the presentation, but in general, from a student standpoint, I'm hoping that you'll take the mindset that you're the customer. You're interviewing the colleges. It's easy to fall into the mindset that I hope I can get in. I really hope I'll get accepted by a college. And yes, that's accurate, but if you build a thoughtful, well-constructed college list, you will be a great candidate for most of your colleges. And you should have the mindset that you're interviewing them. Which college can deliver for you the academics that you want, the setting that you want, what will be a good fit socially? Do you want to live at this college for 4 years? And very importantly, is it affordable? And we will be talking about these in more detail. A small topic, grades, test scores, and the implications. First of all, grades. We're very fortunate in Washington State that the state, so OSBE has decided that all high school students will receive actual grades. Some states have decided to just give a pass-fail grade to students this semester. I'm really glad that we're not doing that because it gives you the chance to get an actual grade on your transcript, which will allow it to be included in your GPA. So for students who may have had a harder time in 9th grade, it gives you this extra semester now, usual semester, but it allows this semester to be included and raise your GPA a little bit higher for college apps. Policies do vary across school districts. So if yours hasn't decided yet what it's going to do, I'm sure they'll be announcing it soon, but check with your school or school district on the grade policy. Those of you attending Running Start, it's business as usual, other than being online. The grading hasn't changed, which is really great. It's nice. One note here, just keep electronic copies of the syllabi for all of the classes you take. Your colleges, or the college that you accept a year from now, assuming you're a junior, will want to see those in order to potentially award credit, college credit, for the classes you're taking in Running Start. So the implications of the grading changes for college applications. Colleges are going to consider the grades that you have in the context of what your school is doing. They get this through the school profile that's provided by your school counselor on your applications. And this is a mouthful and it's a lot of information, but basically I just want you to know, don't worry too much about the grading system your school chose. The colleges will understand your grades in the context of what your school decided to do about grading. AP exams. Those of you taking AP exams are well aware that they're happening now, this part of May. So it's probably a little outdated at this point, but if there are any updates that come of AP, this link takes you to the College Board's latest news. For those of you in IB, this is the link for IB updates. As you're well aware, exams were canceled for spring 2020. And your grades will be based on coursework that will be externally evaluated. And it's, I believe, July 4th or 5th would be, those grades should be available. Implications for college applications. Colleges are still going to be regarding these courses and Running Start as rigorous. A lot of them give a GPA boost for any AP or IB classes, and they're generally saying that they're going to give it the same consideration this year, even if you're an IB student and you aren't able to take an exam. They'll use the grades instead to consider that you've taken a rigorous course and either for admission information or potentially waiving that class in college. Most colleges are saying they're going to not change their policies because of this little blip this year that you can't get that exam. SAT, ACT, and subject tests, another fun topic. Okay, ACT exams have been canceled as of now through June. I list the next few dates here that we are hoping will actually take place. They've added some, so it'll be monthly beginning in August. If you are registered for one or were registered for a May or June SAT, my recommendation is to stay registered, and they will let you know which one you're registered for. They'll just bump you to the next possible date. Partly what happens is they have to have test centers in each geographic area that are available to test. So as long as school buildings are closed, it's almost impossible to get a test run in our location because they're run in schools and teachers are the ones who proctor the exams. So SAT is, and ACT, they're both juggling a lot of balls right now trying to get this all to happen. ACT is currently still scheduled to hold their June 13th exam. And then they have makeup scheduled a week later for both their June and July exams. We'll have to see if they're able to deliver the June or July exam, and that's just going to be a matter of staying current on the latest news, and here's the link for that. Starting in September, a couple of things with ACT. ACT is still on track to start introducing individual section tests virtually beginning in September. These are not initially designed to be done at home, and everything I've heard so far is that they're still going to be done at test centers. So they're putting this together. This isn't completely ready to deliver yet, so I'm sure they'll continue to update on that as well. Subject tests. Some of you are probably scheduled to take subject tests in May or June. Those have been canceled along with the SAT exams. At present, it doesn't look like you'll be able to reschedule those anytime soon. And some colleges haven't updated their testing guidelines yet to reflect that they don't require subject tests. Technically, they're not required, but a lot of schools highly recommend them. If you're not able to get the exams, you can't get them. It's as simple as that. So if you're not able to take these tests, I wouldn't worry. Definitely contact the colleges or check their information on their websites for the status of what they're requiring. But more and more colleges are going to a test optional format because of this. So what is test optional? You guys have probably heard that term thrown around a lot. Test optional means optional. If you have the test, so if you've taken a test at an earlier date, or you're able to get one in the fall, and you submit those scores, they will be considered. For test optional colleges, even if you have the scores, I don't recommend automatically submitting them. Take a look first at what the current students at that college had in terms of scores. So this here, collegedata.com, has a ton of information, and one of the data points you can get there is what the middle range of test scores were for the last enrolled class, so the current freshmen. So I encourage you to look at that, compare your scores to what the average current student has, and then decide if it's submitting the scores will strengthen your application. And if it won't, you probably shouldn't submit them. And you will not be penalized. What happens if you don't submit scores, if it's a test optional college, they'll put more weight on other elements, such as your GPA, your essays, anything else. And we'll talk about the kinds of things that they look at later. Okay. Like everything with colleges, there are exceptions. There are some colleges that will not consider any test scores. So the Cal system, Cal Poly is one, they will not take any tests. They won't consider them at all for the class of 2021. So even if you did do great, you can't submit them because they're trying to level the playing field and make it equal for all applicants. The vast majority of colleges are test optional, and there are still a few colleges that are requiring test scores, which is really difficult if you can't get the tests. So I would say just kind of keep an eye on what the status is of the colleges you're looking at. Fairtest.org down here is, it compiles the most current status of all colleges and if they're test optional or not. If a college requires test scores and you have not been able to get them and you really want to apply to that college, I would contact them and double check that you will be considered. And if they really refuse to consider an applicant without test scores and you haven't been able to get them, I would question why you would want to apply to that school. There are many, many amazing colleges. My hope, though, is that most, if not all, will go test optional in light of what we're going through right now. Okay, choosing your major, building your college list. These are regular parts of the college application process. So choosing your major is sometimes the most difficult thing for students because you haven't had the chance to explore careers or to explore a lot of very specific subjects in high school. So what I generally encourage students to do is give some thought to what subjects do you like. When you're at school, what are the subjects, not necessarily the teachers or the class, but the subjects? What's the material that you most enjoy learning about? What activities do you do? Are you involved in any clubs at school that have been really fun? What do you do in your free time? What do you gravitate towards? Give a lot of thought to what your own preferences are. Keeping in mind that being an undeclared major is 100% okay. You can always, almost all colleges, you can apply undeclared or undecided. And this means that you get to explore possible careers and possible majors while you're at the first year, usually in your first year of university, before committing to a particular major. Here are a few tools to use to help think about possible majors. Identifying career interests at My Next Move. It's a free survey. I think it takes about 15 or 20 minutes. Big Future, which is College Board. You might have already used this tool, but it's a good place to search for possible majors and careers. Another really cool new thing that's come about because of COVID and everything going virtual, Career Connect is a Washington organization, Washington State, and they've put together career conversations. So they've tapped executives or presidents of companies based in our state to talk about the kinds of jobs people do at their company and to talk about their industry. So they're 1-hour webinars offered every day, every weekday in May at 3:30. And you can go to this link and check out what they're offering. So they have some that are business oriented, some that are tech, all sorts of things. And just sign up for the few that might be of interest to you and explore what they're saying about these jobs, the skills required, what you'll be doing, that kind of stuff. Okay, very important. Know your priorities. So this is in terms of building a college list. This is a checklist that is put out by NSSE that I kind of like. It gives you a bunch of things to think about when you're evaluating colleges, comparing certain colleges for which is going to give you what you're looking for. So I suggest taking a look at that and just thinking about these different factors. But in general, if you've decided what major you want, or you know at least that it's sciences or it's humanities or some area, is that even offered? What does the college have that would serve your needs academically? Does the campus culture match your values and priorities? Campus cultures, there's over 4,000 colleges in the US. They vary enormously in terms of what the lifestyle would be like on campus. How academic is it? Is it collaborative? Is there a team feel among students, or is it very competitive? All this kind of stuff. Is it affordable? I have a lot of information on affordability coming up, hugely important. And then I've also included a safety profile link so that you can check the crime stats for any of the colleges you're looking at. There is going to be crime at all of them, but they can vary significantly in the amount of incidents, and the number of incidents, and the types of crime. Research, the facts. So for those of you who like data, these are your places to go. They're both populated with government data, so they're very, very reliable. College Navigator allows you to search for colleges and majors and collect a lot of basic data. College data offers like reams and reams of data on the number of students in each major at the colleges, at any college, the admission stats, the current students there, like I mentioned earlier, their GPAs, their test scores, all these things. So these are really good places to go and collect specific data. The other important factors, college websites are your go-to place for detailed information. One of the few good things coming out of the coronavirus is that they're developing something that probably would have been beneficial all along, and that's virtual information sessions and virtual campus tours and videos about academic departments, housing, programs, all these things. So in the past, 3 months ago, you would have to go to a campus. Like if you wanted to visit UW, you would go online, sign up for a campus visit. And during your campus tour, you would attend an information session, usually about half an hour, and then an hour-long tour afterwards. It's pretty typical. Now they're putting these online, which is kind of cool because Not everybody, well, nobody can afford to visit tons of colleges they're considering attending. And this allows you to get at least an information session put on by an admissions rep and a virtual tour, not in person, but still very valuable. You can usually find these under visit on the admissions pages. So understanding the requirements of your major. The students I work with, I actually make them do a lot of homework. It's one thing to say, yeah, I want to be a biology major. And it's another thing to really look at the courses that are required to graduate with a BS in biology. It changes by college. So some colleges will require you to take a lot of humanities classes in addition. And some, you can pretty much just take STEM classes. So I actually ask my students to take a look. If you're thinking biology or biochem or whatever major it is that you might be interested in, actually go to the college website, go to the academics tab and search, and it's hard to find in some, but persevere, you'll get it. They almost all have a list of the required courses in that major. And that gives you a lot of really good information to sit back and think, do I really want to do that for 4 years? Am I that interested in this subject? Or I can't wait to go and try out these classes. Like, this is fascinating. It'll tell you so much about whether you're on the right track with your major. Then the other level of that is compare across the colleges you're considering, because they can really vary. And that'll give you another good idea about whether it's a great fit college or not. The last point, connecting with admissions reps. They're so easy to get hold of these days because they're working from home. Ordinarily, college admissions reps would be out doing, this time of year, they'd be doing college fairs and visiting high schools and traveling, but they are available and they want to hear from you. So either email them or contact them by phone, whatever the contact information is on their website. Virtual college fairs is another opportunity. Instead of coming to, so the spring college fair in Seattle is always at Seattle U, and it would have happened 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks, 1.5. Obviously it couldn't happen. So they're doing things like virtual fairs instead, where you can visit colleges en masse and sign up and hear from several on the same day. So this is my website, and I'm trying to keep as current a list as possible of virtual fairs. So if you wanted to attend one of those, you could. Something else that's very important, student experiences. I definitely want you to research what the colleges are saying about their programs, but beyond that, I'm hoping that you'll listen to what the current students are saying. Unigo and Niche are good sources for hearing student reviews or reading student reviews. I also really encourage, this is where social media is extremely helpful, follow the accounts of the official admissions offices and academic departments you're looking at, but also follow the alumni, current students, and prospective student accounts on social media to get your finger on the pulse of the conversation. So how are these colleges treating their students during COVID-19? Are they supporting them? Are they giving them notice about what they're doing and their plans as much as reasonably possible? Are students happy? And also, what are the issues at each college? It really varies. And it'll be interesting for you to help to have this information in deciding which colleges you want to apply to. College affordability, very important. Okay, in general, community colleges are typically the least expensive option. Public in-state are the next least. So such as Western, Wazoo, UW. Some of you may have heard of the WUI program. It stands for Western Undergraduate Exchange and has a hilarious acronym. What you can do with WUI is end up paying, in some cases, less than the UW tuition for going to these colleges. It's public universities in the Western states. So it's a regional program where certain public universities choose to participate, and they choose to participate sometimes with all of their programs, like the University of Idaho, and sometimes with a few of their undergraduate majors. It just depends on where they feel they have the capacity. And what they do is, if you are admitted with a WUI scholarship, is what it would be called, you would pay whatever the in-state tuition is, plus 50%. So I use the University of Idaho as an example. If you go to the University of Idaho, their tuition in Idaho is lower, significantly lower for in-state Iowa student or Idaho students than it is in Washington for Washington students. So you actually end up paying less than if you attended UW. It's kind of interesting. Out-of-state public universities can be very expensive because you're a non-resident student. Some offer really great merit scholarships or need-based. And the best way to find that out is on their websites. Private universities, pretty much the same as out of state as far as price. They can be very expensive on paper, unless you're able to get merit scholarships or need-based scholarships. Another really cool option that a lot of people don't think about is international. So I'm Canadian, if you haven't noticed, eh? And I have students applying and attending schools in Canada or the UK or Europe. My daughter is attending the University of British Columbia. And I have a student going off to London, England next year, which is exciting. And depending on the university, a lot of them for an American citizen can be cheaper than going to a public out-of-state college or a private university in the US. So these are some links just to kind of start exploring those options if that sounds like something you'd be interested in doing. These are two relatively new and amazing programs in Washington State. If you're a student at one of the Seattle public high schools, you are eligible for the Seattle Promise. And this provides for the first 2 years of the cost of attendance. That's not just tuition, that's your tuition, your fees, your room and board, everything to attend college. Actually, not room and board, I'm sorry, it's not at the community colleges. Tuition and fees, and I believe books at one of the 3 community colleges listed here. And information is at the website. The Washington College Grant is just a little bit different. All Washington State residents are eligible. It's based on a sliding scale of family income. So it would pay for tuition at in-state colleges, universities, and institutes of technology. I'm hoping that they stay funded in light of the economic downturn. Current information will be available at their websites. This is very important. I highly recommend that families do this, estimating their cost of attendance before building that college list. It's easy to, a lot of people will say, don't worry about the cost, don't worry about the sticker price, they have scholarships. Some do, certainly not all. So I really advocate strongly for knowing before you apply to a college what the likelihood is that it will be reasonably affordable. So cost of attendance, the box down here. Cost of attendance equals tuition plus fees plus room and board plus supplies and books and travel. Basically everything that it costs to attend that school for a year. My recommendation is to find a time to sit down with your parents and talk about this. Talk about the range of affordability or the range of attendance prices at all of the colleges that you might be thinking about. And honestly, they range in-state, mid 20,000s a year if you're staying on campus without any merit or need-based scholarships, all the way up to 80,000 a year for some of the private universities. And so it's a massive difference. The next step would be to calculate your expected family contribution. And this is the amount the government expects your family to pay. I can guarantee you probably have a different opinion on how much money your family should pay, but this is based on, so this is student aid, and this number is what they use to determine need-based scholarships. So it's a really important thing to go and do this estimate. You can do this anytime. Have your parents do this, and you'll get an estimated family or expected family contribution that you will then plug into the net price calculator on each college's website. Each college is required to have a net price calculator on their website, and you would plug in various factors such as how much money your family is expected to contribute, if you plan to live on campus, that kind of stuff, if you're in state or out of state. And it will tell you an estimate of how much money you are likely to have to pay to attend that college. So I would do that for the colleges you're considering, all of them. It doesn't take long and it gives you invaluable information. Work with your parents after that to understand, in light of the landscape of the options you're looking at and what possibilities there are, how much money do they have set aside? How much money would you need to contribute either through a part-time job, working on campus, taking out loans? Which isn't ideal. It's much better if you can not have to go down that route. Student loans, really difficult. They can follow you for many, many years after graduation. So the goal is to build a college list that considers affordability. I am definitely not going over everything on this slide. This is for reference later. Great sources of federal and state need-based aid. Go through the federal government puts out really good information on everything about student aid that you should know. The federal student aid application and information, and then Washington State. Institutional merit scholarships, these are where the biggest buckets of money are for merit. Most students are automatically considered for merit scholarships through the application, but double check. You always want to double check for each individual college. Sometimes they have additional separate scholarship applications for you to fill out to qualify for the biggest scholarships. And then private. These are some search engines that you can use to search for private scholarships. Applications. This is one of the things that's changed a little, but not so much because of COVID. So how do colleges make admissions decisions? They get in these applications. Applications vary significantly in what colleges are looking for. The standard things, they're all going to be looking at your grades and the rigor. So the rigor is whether you're taking honors classes, AP, IB, Running Start. In the past, most looked at test scores, but of course that's going test optional at a lot of schools, but not all. A lot of colleges will ask for a list of your activities. What have you been doing with your time outside of school? Many colleges ask for a recommendation letter, or plural recommendation letters, from school counselor, a number of teachers, sometimes up to 3, and occasionally outside recommenders if you're involved in something that's significant in your life outside of school. And the college allows that kind of a recommendation. I definitely encourage that. Most colleges are looking for essays and short answer questions as well, which are a huge part of the application decision they make. And basically, these are the main factors. There are other elements as well, but these are the main things that admissions decisions tend to be made on. If a college such as the University of Washington does not ask for recommendation letters, it means they don't consider recommendation letters. So the application itself tells you what they're going to be considering. Activities list. So this can be one of the really important factors, especially this year. If students, for the most part, are not able to or will not be submitting test scores, colleges are putting more weight on things like grades, but also the activities. What have you been doing when you're not in school? So it's really challenging in this time to get yourself motivated to do things or to try new things. And no colleges are expecting you to suddenly replace all the clubs or sports or other activities you were part of in school now that everything's virtual. However, if you have extra time on your hands, it's an opportunity. And the fact that you're attending this webinar tells me that you are motivated and you are taking the initiative. So I suspect that you're probably able to think more out of the box and really identify ways to find unique things to do and learn and explore with this time. I know you're busy right now because you've got another few weeks of school left, but this summer we're probably to some degree still going to be restricted in what we can do. How are you going to use the time? Think about the ways that you can really use this time to the best value for yourself. And that's where this is something that I'm really talking to all my students that I'm working with about. Consider whether your values are reflected in the way you're choosing to spend your time. This is a really cool opportunity to reset and really think about what's important. What do I want to do? Do I really want to be doing what I did yesterday all day? I know sometimes I look at my day that I just had and I'm like, what did I do with my time? And nobody's perfect and you can't be intentional all the time. But think about this. Think about what has the most value for you. Okay, talking about applications. The common application is still going to have a personal statement. That is a up to 650 word essay. They give you a variety of prompts to choose from, but generally they all come down to the same thing. They want to know who you are. What's important to you? What are your values? What are you passionate about? When you're writing this personal statement, be personal. They want to know who you are. They get all of the data on your application already. They get your grades, your courses, possibly your test scores, your activities. This lets you come alive in the application. New this year, expect a new question. And they're still working out how this is going to happen. But the Common App is looking at putting in an extra question about COVID-19. And if for some reason that doesn't happen, or for other applications not on the Common App, other colleges, expect that they're going to want to know what the impact on you was about COVID-19. Everybody, it's a massive range of how people are being impacted. Some kids have family members who have been infected or have lost their jobs, and some haven't. And it really, admissions reps want to know this because they don't want to make judgments without knowing the full picture. So they're really going to want to know, how have you been impacted by COVID-19? This is a once in a century situation. It's not common stuff. So tell them, think about this. Like how has it impacted you? Has it changed any of your values or priorities, as well as the actual impact? And then lastly, there are still going to be college-specific essays and short answer questions. Timelines. So these are very brief lists of things to be doing at different times. Junior year, summer. Summer is a great time to do most of the application work. The Common App comes out on August 1st, and then you'll have all of the official questions and supplementary essay topics or prompts for your application year if you're a junior now. So you can do a lot of work before the application comes out, but certainly use the time in the summer to finish as much of the applications as possible before you have school starting again in the fall. And then senior year, senior year. One thing I just want to point out is the FAFSA and the WASFA are the financial aid applications. They open on October 1st, and those are really important to get done as early as possible once they go live. So, additional resources. What I've done here is just provided a bunch of links. The one at the top is the absolute most go-to resource that you will probably use. So colleges have been, NACAC is National Association of College Admissions Consultants, and they've put together one website that captures input from all colleges who input information, which is most of them, on current status. So are they accepting test scores? What is their policy on test or on application dates? Are they doing virtual tours, virtual information sessions, all this stuff? So colleges are keeping this updated. So this is your go-to source for the current information on pretty much all the universities. This is my website, and I'm putting this here because my goal is to keep it updated with as much current information as I can on what's going on with COVID-19 in terms of impacting college admissions and planning. Resources. So all of this alphabet soup, all these terms, I use the glossary to explain what they mean and the resources to direct you to more information, like some of the resources that I've provided elsewhere in the presentation. And then a blog so that I can update anybody who checks it on upcoming virtual college fairs or information sessions coming. And hopefully we'll have a lot of those as time goes on. If you want a general overview of what's going on in higher education, Inside Higher Ed is a publication I recommend. And they're pretty good about getting a really accurate and timely dissemination of news in higher education. And that is it for the official presentation, and I can't wait to hear your questions.
All right, Cynthia, so thank you so much for presenting all of that information. We do have a couple of questions I'm seeing. One, I'm not sure we can answer, but your feelings on what happens if COVID-19 goes through September. How will universities handle this?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, whoever answered that. Colleges would like to know that. They're all working, not all, most are working under the assumption that they will be able to run classes in person in the fall. And certainly that's what everybody's hoping. In addition to that, though, they're all running contingency scenarios. So if they have to shut down, and there's so many different possible things that could happen. Either, they could be, and it might be more regional than nationwide. What happens, it probably will be. But if a college is in a position to open in the fall, they might have to go to a virtual delivery of classes for some period of time. So they're all trying to think through the best way to serve students, the best way possible under whatever the circumstances may be at any point. So mostly they're coming up with plans as quickly as possible, and I know they're all going to be communicating them as they're able to make decisions. UW did a really interesting town hall meeting on Friday, this Friday, and you can go to their website for the recording, and they're pretty much saying the same thing as most colleges around the country, that in a perfect world, wow, they would love to be open and business as usual in September, and they will be working towards doing that as much as possible. So putting into place any safety protocols, social distancing evaluating how they deliver content. So big lecture halls versus smaller classes, and what they can do to make sure that it's a safe environment in terms of a pandemic. So I don't know if that answered it. It's kind of a, we have to wait and see, but that is unfortunately where we're at.
Okay. So next question, if you are already in college or university, is it possible to change a college or university at the last minute?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Okay, you have to email me that separately. I'll send you a link. There's there's a massive list. I believe the latest is 400 colleges as of May 1st. Actually, they came out with it on May 2nd, a list of colleges that are still accepting applications. In a normal year, it would be, no, it's 600. In a normal year, it would be under 200 at this point. But there are many that are still accepting applications because of the uncertainty. So short answer, yes, you probably can still apply to a lot of universities to transfer. And I know a lot of students are thinking about that just because of the uncertainty next year. So I don't have that link top of hand, so I can, if you email me, just go to the website and there's a contact form if you want to let me know, and I can get that to you after.
Sounds good. And another question, are all college degrees created equal? If I get a bachelor's, does it matter what major I choose?
Oh, good question. Yes and no. Generally, having a bachelor's degree is a really good stepping point. Like that in itself is a huge accomplishment. Depends what you want to do afterwards, I would say. If you want to be an engineer, it really matters that you get an engineering bachelor's degree, a BS in engineering. If you want to be, if you want to go to med school, weirdly, it doesn't matter. You need to have taken certain classes in undergraduate, but you can get your degree in a wide variety of things. It really depends. It depends how career focused. Certain degrees are much more skills-based and focused on a particular career outcome, but many undergraduate degrees are more focused on becoming a really well-rounded citizen, developing really good learning skills and communication skills and really good overall knowledge. So it depends.
So while on that question, we did have a question, what major should I take if I want to be a dermatologist?
Ooh, that led right into that question, didn't it? Okay, so dermatologist, wow, that's a lot of years of school. So that would be getting a bachelor's degree followed by medical school, followed by a specialization in dermatology, which is awesome. So what I would recommend is when you're looking for colleges, make sure that they have a very strong pre-med program. And it's not a major. If you're pre-med, it means that you're taking another major, but they have pre-med support, so academic support to help you make sure you're getting the classes you need, you're getting the experience you need. Usually to apply to med school, they're looking for a lot of hands-on exposure to the medical field, volunteering or working in a hospital setting or a clinical or doing research. There are a lot of options. But having a good pre-med program in undergraduate really helps make sure that you're going to have what you need when it comes time to apply to med school.
So this question's been asked twice now. Does this information apply towards community college or just university? Is there differences in the application process to those?
Yes, I'm glad somebody asked that. That's true. So community colleges are much, much easier. You don't have to qualify. Everybody is allowed to attend community college, which is wonderful. And in fact, they're seeing enrollment go up significantly right now because of COVID. Bellevue College is a really great example. I have a lot of students at Bellevue College, and they actually have quite a few four-year degrees as well. So applying to Bellevue College, you could actually stay there for your whole degree. They're also structured in such a way that they have a very clean and very planned path to transferring after 2 years to a four-year university. So going and getting your associate's degree at one of the community colleges, and this is where the Seattle Promise is so amazing. It allows students to attend those 2 first years of college for free if you're graduating from a high school in one of the Seattle public high schools, and then go on and really only pay for 2 years, your final 2 years of the four-year university program.
Perfect. All right, so how do you transfer from a one-year community college to a university? Okay,
so generally you're going to want to, well, some college, okay, yeah, with colleges, it's all, nothing's the same answer. It's always if, then. So if you're thinking about transferring, the number one thing to do will be to look at the college you want to transfer to and find out their policy. Some of them require you to have taken a certain number of credits at another college, community college, or another 4-year before transferring. Some have a limit on the number of credits you can bring in as a transfer student. So that really is individual across universities, colleges. And then take a look at what the transfer student profile is, because they track that completely differently than incoming freshmen. So generally speaking, you won't have to retake the ACT or the SAT, especially this year. They'll be basing it on your grades in the college courses that you've had. So the best advice if you're thinking about transferring is to go directly to the college website of the college you want to go to. Gather as much information there as you can, and then reach out with specific questions to the admissions rep of that college.
So we did have a question on if the PowerPoint will be available, and yes, it will be. I'll be sending it out to all of the attendees, and we'll also be linking it online on our website. So we're looking for that in the next 24 hours. But here's another question. Does being in a program like Running Start affect anything related to college applications?
Oh, that's a huge question. Affect it. It doesn't really. So if you're applying to colleges in the US, most of them are familiar with dual enrollment programs, and they'll recognize it as a, quote, dual enrollment. So you're enrolled in high school and college. We're fortunate in Washington State to have a really amazing Running Start program. It's strong. We have great colleges, great reputation. It's not the same in every state. Some are better than others. So some colleges will be more familiar with it than others. So what I recommend is explaining clearly on your college applications. And there's usually a section of additional information where you can do this. And just explain, be careful to explain why you chose to do Running Start. And especially for colleges that are not local and are not familiar with our really good Running Start program in Washington, this will help them understand that it gave you access to really interesting courses that you didn't have access to at high school, or the culture at your high school was just not a good fit for you for whatever reason, or any number of reasons. There's so many great reasons to do Running Start. Make sure that you just indicate that on your application.
Here's a great question. Is the debt really worth it?
I'm giving my opinion, no. It depends. I mean, it depends on the amount of debt. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on what you're going to do as a career after. Is that career going to pay enough well, a lot of things. Are you very likely to be employed in the career that you plan to be employed in? So think about that. We're going into a recession, and employment is much more difficult to get. A lot of people graduating right now from college are not able to get a job at all, let alone in the field that they studied for. So they're probably not going to be making as much money as they had anticipated. Paying back those student loans in a city like Seattle that's very expensive to live in is really tough. If at all possible, I highly recommend not being saddled with student debt. Just in our own family, we really prioritize affordability of the college. I have 3 daughters. We prioritize just finding something affordable, because you're going to get a great degree. And for the most part, it would be true that college is what you make of it, wherever you go. You're going to have the opportunities in college to join clubs, organizations, take leadership positions, hopefully get work experience, research experience. That matters more than the name of the college you went to and the amount that you paid.
Definitely. So let's see, is it true or false? Your high school GPA does not matter as much when applying to universities if you do Running Start.
Unfortunately, that's not true. Your GPA is the #1 most important thing universities are looking at, whether you do Running Start or not. So colleges vary in how they evaluate the GPA. Some of them are going to look for a grade trend. So for example, if the high school part of your GPA, 9th and 10th grade, wasn't as strong as your Running Start classes, you have a really great argument that you are ready for college. Because basically what colleges want to know is, are you capable of doing rigorous academic work independently? If you're a Running Start student and you've been getting great grades in Running Start, yes, you have a very good argument that yes, you are 100% meeting that requirement. So some colleges a lot recognize that you're pretty young in ninth grade, and life can be very different between ninth grade and 11th grade. And there are a lot of students who really become strong students over time. And so they give a lot of attention to how your grade transfer over time. They'll also potentially give you a GPA bump for the Running Start classes, much like they do for AP or IB, but they may not. We don't weight transcripts in Washington State, so the colleges see your unweighted GPA, whether Running Start or high school. And then some colleges do their own recalculation and give you a little bit more of a GPA boost for any Running Start, IB or AP or honors classes, but not all. And that's a vague answer, but it's one of those things that really varies.
So here's another one. My plan is to do 2 years at Pierce Community College as a general studies major and then transfer to UW to pick an actual major. Is that possible?
Absolutely. Yep. You can get an associate's degree in all sorts of things. A general associate's degree, which it sounds like you're planning to do, which is fabulous. And to be honest, a lot of students who start as a freshman at UW or any other university, I think the latest statistic is 71% of students change their major. So you're not, there's no negative to doing that as far as putting off choosing a major by waiting until you go to UW to do that.
Mm-hmm. So we have some questions on actually choosing a major. So what would you recommend majoring in if you wanted to learn the political and economic side of humanitarian work?
Yow, okay. Huh. Lots of cool majors. I'm looking for that. Okay, so actually I recommend doing My Next Move because you're going to be looking at possibly majors in international relations, possibly even public health or international public health or global, but also you could do politics, or there's so many possibilities. So I recommend doing My Next Move because it's going to ask you a series of questions about courses you like, your interests, career goals to some degree. And then it's going to come up with a lot of recommended majors. And that will give you a good list of majors to consider. And then the next step is looking at the colleges you're thinking about. Sometimes colleges have majors that are essentially the same material and the same outcome, but they have a slightly different name. So there are quite a few different majors you could choose for that outcome that you have in mind.
Great. All right, so if I have a lower GPA when I graduate high school, what can I do to stand out in the college admission process?
Yeah, so for the colleges you're applying to, make sure that they're a college that actually looks at, let me go to this slide, that looks at more than just GPA. So some colleges look at, nope, going the wrong way. Let me go back to this slide. I'm sorry. I'm looking for the slide that talks about all the factors that are considered in admissions. There it is. So some colleges, Cal Poly is one, they just really look at grades and the number of hours of activities you've done. Other colleges like UW and most colleges will want to see your activities. And if you have really strong leadership or volunteer experience or career-specific experience, you can highlight this kind of thing in your activities list and your essays. So what I would recommend, and your recommendation letters, if you have something outside of school that's very significant in your life, and the college accepts a recommendation letter from an outside, like a not teacher recommender, I would definitely recommend that. They want to know who you are and what you bring as a student, and it's not always just grades. So definitely use these opportunities of the activities list, the recommendation letters, and your essays and short answers to really let them know all of the great things that you're bringing and how you would benefit their school as a student.
Great. So do you have a recommendation for a GPA you should be aiming for when applying for university?
Not at all. No, because it depends on the college. And that's the, nope, I'm going in the wrong direction again. And I'm looking for college data, the link to college data. Sorry, there it is. The GPA will matter, but it varies significantly across colleges. So by going to college data, you'll see the data range of the GPA and the test scores of current students. And then you can kind of see how you compare. And if you're in the top 50% compared to current students, you're probably in a pretty good position to be admitted. There are other factors like we just looked at, but that hopefully will help you. It also helps narrow down the college list. I generally recommend that students choose a variety of colleges. Don't just go for the ones that are barely within reach. You want to have a few sure things on your list too.
Speaking of that, can you tell us the difference between university, community college, and a technical school?
Oh,
and
yeah,
why you
good
choose
question.
to go?
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to try and go to my, I know what I'm looking for, I just don't know where to find it. That's okay. There's the one slide where I list the community colleges, the public universities, and that. So the difference is a community college, some of them are blurring the lines a little bit towards either a four-year university or a technical college by the degrees they're offering. So some of them, as you know, you can graduate with an actual degree in a lot of different fields, arts or sciences, technical included. It just depends on what they offer. Technical colleges tend to be focused more on STEM or technology. A lot of interest, especially in our area, in software development, things like that. And there around the country, there are a lot of institutes of technology where the whole focus is on STEM majors. And it really lets you get into very, like say you want to be a biomedical engineer. It lets you get into those very specific classes very early on without having to take a lot of electives in humanities or areas that you might not have as much interest in. And that's one of the reasons I like students to really dive into the website of the colleges you're looking at, go to the major you're thinking about, and the list of required courses within that major. If you're looking at a STEM major, for example, and you compare that across a liberal arts college, an Institute of Technology, and say UW, they're going to have very different requirements. So that's the best way to compare how your choice of that type of college would impact you, depending on the major you're looking at.
It looks like our questions have slowed down. So one more question, unless someone else has anything they want to type in real quick. Is there scholarships that are better than others? Also, how many scholarships should I apply for?
Ooh. So there are a ton of private scholarships. The hard part is finding them that are very specific or not. It's a tough question because there are always private scholarships that go unclaimed every year. And then they'll award it to the person who's the best fit. So in the past, we've found scholarships for people who own llamas, or the Tall Women's Scholarship if you're over 6'2" or something. Like there's some really narrowly defined requirements for some particular scholarships. If you qualify for something very narrow like that, I'd be all over that one because your odds of getting it are very high. Sometimes the ones that are very well publicized and are easy to apply to are much harder to get because you have so much competition. So it's really a matter of just, as much as time allows, apply to a lot because it really ranges widely in how likely your chances are of getting that scholarship.
All right, and so then a couple of, we've had a lot of questions here on specific majors. So can you go over again on picking your major and what courses you should take? So say if you wanted to major in finance, or you wanted to be, again, a dermatologist or a forensic toxologist, some very cool careers here that are being considered.
Yes, okay, so this is the website. There's not a lot of detail, but so this is where I really encourage you to dig into the course requirements for your major. If you've narrowed down, most students haven't narrowed down a very specific major at first. That comes over time. So if you have, say, 3 or 4 different majors you're considering, I would start with one university, start with maybe UW, and go to their academics on their website, and then dig through the pages you need to get into the major and then the list of courses that are required. UW is a little tricky because you have to then go and search in the course catalog. They just give you the course code and you have to go and search what exactly is that. they get the course definition, but you can do that. And then see what you would be taking for each major and which path really represents where your interests are. And then once you've narrowed down the major that you really want, then start comparing it across different colleges and universities. And that's where the Institutes of Technology will have a very different list of requirements than a big public university or a liberal arts college. They can really vary.
So 2 more questions and then we'll wrap it up. Didn't see the washboard.org on the recommendation list. Do you recommend it?
Oh yeah, that's another good call. The scholarship search engine.
Oh, good.
Oh, Washboard is right here.
Perfect.
Yeah, and there's tons. It's just, I just put down a few.
All right. So last question, should I go immediately into college after high school? Is it a bad idea to take a year or 2 off to decide what to do with life first?
Oh, good question. It all depends. Neither is always the right answer. I guess it varies for everybody. There's a lot of value to taking some time off if you're not sure what you want. Just make sure that you use that time wisely. Do something with intent. So identify what it is that you need to figure out, or what more information you would need to really know what you want to do moving forward, and then figure out how you can get that experience. And that would be a gap year, and a lot of students will travel or work for a year or 2 before going to college. A lot of other students who aren't quite sure what they want to do will choose a liberal arts curriculum where they can explore a lot of different courses before making up their mind. Or just go to a college where you choose a major, but you have the flexibility to change later if you decide.
Great, wonderful. All right, so again, Cynthia, thank you so much for doing this with us and for everyone for joining us. This is recorded and will be put out on our website and social media, along with all of Cynthia's contacts and this slideshow, so you can contact her later if you think of some more questions. We hope that you will join us moving forward every Wednesday for the next 6 weeks. We have some amazing speakers. Next week, you'll hear from Jedediah Collins on money management in a financial crisis. We know a lot of you have gone out and gotten yourselves some great jobs during this time. What are you going to do now with all the financial gain that you're making? Jedediah is a previous NFL football player. He was handed a rather large check at 22 and had some pitfalls on that. So he wants you to learn from his how he learned the hard way. He wants you to avoid those. So thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you.